The Last Stand. Jackson staggered through the ruins of what had once been Earth's greatest city. His pulse remained steady despite the devastation surrounding him. The air was thick with smoke and the metallic stench of alien blood, mingling with the acrid scent of burning steel. Overhead, the sky was torn apart by streaks of enemy ships, their sleek obsidian forms hovering like vultures over a carcass. He was the last human warrior, the final survivor of a war that had begun with whispers in the void and ended in the total annihilation of his species. He had fought on every battlefield, stood against the invaders when the rest of the world crumbled. Now he was alone, but still standing. Plasma fire streaked past him, scorching the fractured pavement. Jackson rolled to the side, pressing his back against the charred remains of a skyscraper. His rifle hummed in his grip, the charge dangerously low. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. A cold, inhuman voice crackled over the enemy communications, target located. The last one. Capture at all costs. Jackson clenched his teeth. Capture? No. He would not be their trophy. He pivoted, raising his rifle. The alien soldiers, their elongated insect-like forms glistening under the crimson sky, advanced in formation. Their armor shifted like liquid metal. He fired. The first shot burned through the chest of the nearest enemy, sending it crumbling to the ground. The second found its mark in another's throat. But there were too many. A high-pitched whine filled the air. The enemy ship above him opened fire. Jackson dove just as a shockwave of energy slammed into him, ripping the ground apart and hurling him backward. Pain exploded through his ribs as he crashed against a broken pillar, his vision blurred, his body convulsed, his mind teetering between consciousness and darkness. Then everything changed. The world around him rippled. A deep, otherworldly hum vibrated through his bones, and suddenly the battlefield dissolved into golden light. Jackson's body was pulled, not by gravity, not by force, but by something beyond physics, beyond reality itself. The war-torn city vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sensation of heat. Then came the fall, and the fire. The Dragon Realm. Jackson hit the ground hard, but it wasn't the shattered earth of his dying world. He gasped, lungs burning, fingers clawing at the dirt beneath him. It was warm, too warm. He pushed himself up, blinking rapidly. The sky above was no longer a battlefield. It was golden, painted in hues of orange and crimson, as if the very atmosphere had been sculpted from fire itself. The air shimmered, rippling with something ancient and alive, carrying the scent of molten stone and something else, something primal. He was in a valley unlike any he had ever seen. Towering cliffs surrounded him, their surfaces carved with markings that glowed faintly, as though etched by living fire. Rivers of lava flowed through the land like veins of molten gold, illuminating the terrain in soft, flickering light. Jackson's heart pounded. This wasn't Earth, but it was familiar. It was ancient. A deep growl rumbled through the valley, shaking the very ground beneath him. Jackson spun, his rifle instinctively raised. His breath caught in his throat. High above, silhouetted against the golden sky, they were watching. Dragons. Real, living dragons. They perched along the cliff edges, their massive wings tucked at their sides, their glowing eyes burning with intelligence. Their scales glistened in shades of obsidian, crimson, and sapphire. Their long tails coiled around the jagged rock formations like serpents of legend. Jackson stood frozen, his mind struggling to process the sheer impossibility of it all. Then one of them moved. A colossal figure, larger than any living creature Jackson had ever seen, descended from the cliffs. Its wings spread wide, blocking out the sky for a moment before it landed with a force that shook the valley. Its scales were a deep molten gold, shifting with the hues of a dying sun. Its horns curved like ancient spires, and when it opened its eyes, they burned with the same golden fire that filled the sky. The dragon stepped forward, lowering its massive head. Its gaze locked onto Jackson. For the first time in his life, Jackson felt small. The dragon inhaled, its breath stirring the embers around them. Then it spoke, not in a roar, not in growls or snarls, but in words. The guardian has returned. Jackson's blood went cold. Guardian? His mind reeled. He had been a soldier, a fighter, the last remnant of a lost race. But these creatures knew him. And somehow, in a way he did not yet understand, they had been waiting for him. The forgotten truth. Jackson stood rooted to the spot, his pulse hammering against his ribs. The golden dragon before him was immense, its massive frame radiating heat, its molten eyes studying him with an intensity that made the very air feel heavier. He should have run. His instincts screamed at him to move, to fight, to do something. But there was something in the way the dragon had spoken, in the weight of its voice, that kept him frozen. Guardian, Jackson forced his fingers to tighten around the grip of his rifle, the familiar weight grounding him even as his mind raced. His voice came out rough, hoarse. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The dragon exhaled slowly, a deep rumbling sound that sent embers swirling around its massive head. You do not remember, it said. Perhaps that is for the best. Jackson took a cautious step backward. You act like we've met before. The dragon's gaze did not waver. Not you, it said, but those who came before you. Your kind has long since forgotten the truth of this world. Jackson frowned, his mind working rapidly. My kind, he repeated. There is no my kind anymore. I'm the last human left. A silence settled over the valley, a heavy, suffocating stillness. Then, one by one, the other dragons moved. Their massive bodies shifted as they descended from the cliffs. Some landed with the grace of falling shadows, their great wings folding against their sides. Others slithered down like liquid fire, their scales glimmering in the golden light. He was surrounded. Jackson's jaw clenched. He didn't like feeling trapped, and he liked even less that these creatures were speaking in riddles. If you have something to tell me, he said, forcing himself to stand his ground, say it. The golden dragon lifted its head, its gaze piercing. Very well. The valley trembled. A surge of heat erupted from the earth, not flames, but something deeper, something ancient. The lava rivers around them pulsed as if responding to the dragon's words, as if the land itself had been waiting. Jackson barely had time to react before the fire reached for him. He gasped as the heat wrapped around his body, curling against his skin. But it didn't burn. It didn't hurt. It was alive, pulsing in time with his heartbeat, filling his mind with something older than memory. And then, like a dam breaking, the visions came. Flashes of another world. A time long before the invasion. Dragons soaring through a sky untouched by war. Humans, warriors, standing beside them. A bond unbreakable. Jackson staggered back, gripping his head. His breath came in sharp, uneven gasps. He saw faces he didn't know but somehow recognized, heard voices speaking a language he had never learned yet understood. The dragons had not always been hidden. They had once fought beside humanity. And he, whether by fate or by something far greater, was their last remaining link. The ancient bond. Jackson knelt in the scorched dirt, his breath ragged as the visions faded, leaving only a raw, aching emptiness in their wake. He wasn't sure how long he had been trapped in the torrent of memories, but when he finally forced himself to look up, the golden dragon was still watching him. Your people once walked beside us, the dragon said, its voice solemn. They were not merely warriors, but guardians. Defenders of this world, sworn to protect it against those who sought to claim it. Jackson swallowed hard, his mind still trying to reconcile the impossible truth. If that's true, he said, his voice hoarse, then why don't I remember? Why doesn't anyone remember? The dragon's eyes darkened, the embers within them flickering with something close to sorrow. Because they were erased. Jackson's blood ran cold. The war you fought against the invaders was not the first, the dragon continued. It was only the last. The enemy has been here before, long ago. They came to take this world for themselves, just as they have now. But back then, they met resistance. Jackson's fists clenched. The dragon inclined its massive head. Humans and dragons together. The first guardians. A sickening weight settled in Jackson's chest. His entire life, he had believed that humanity's war with the alien invaders had been the beginning, the first and only fight for survival. But now he understood. It had been the end of something much older, much greater. What happened to them? Jackson asked, though part of him already knew the answer. They fought valiantly, the dragon said. For centuries, the bond between our kinds held strong. But the enemy learned. They adapted. They found a way to sever the connection, to make your people forget their true nature, their true allies. Without the bond, humanity became vulnerable. Jackson felt hollow, as if something vital had been carved out of him. And you? What happened to you? We were forced into hiding, another dragon spoke, its voice like distant thunder. This one was smaller than the golden dragon but no less magnificent, its scales a deep emerald that caught the light like precious stones. We retreated to this realm, waiting for the day when a guardian would return. But I'm not a guardian, Jackson said, desperation creeping into his voice. I'm just a soldier. I don't know how to. The fire recognizes you, the golden dragon interrupted. The ancient flame that connects all life, all worlds. It called to you when your world fell. It brought you here. Jackson looked down at his hands. They were still warm from the strange fire that had wrapped around him, and he could feel something stirring within him, a power he had never known existed. The invaders believe they have won, the golden dragon said, rising to its full height. They think the last human is dead, that earth is theirs to claim. They do not know about us. They do not know about you. Jackson felt a spark of something he hadn't felt since the war began, hope. What are you saying? The dragon's eyes blazed with renewed fire. I am saying, Guardian, that the real war is about to begin. The Guardians return. The golden dragon spread its massive wings, and Jackson felt the ancient bond ignite within him like a flame that had been waiting to burst to life. The connection was overwhelming, not just to the dragon before him, but to all of them. He could feel their thoughts, their memories, their unwavering determination to reclaim what had been lost. The invaders have made a fatal mistake, the dragon said, its voice now resonating through Jackson's very soul. They destroyed your world too quickly, thinking themselves victorious. But in their haste, they awakened something they had worked for millennia to suppress. Jackson stood, and for the first time since arriving in this strange realm, he felt steady. The rifle in his hand seemed insignificant now compared to the power coursing through his veins. The bond, he said, understanding flooding through him. It's not just memory. It's real. It's alive. And it is yours to command, said the Emerald Dragon. As it was your ancestors before you. The other dragons began to move, their massive forms creating a circle around Jackson. Each one was unique, scales of different colors and patterns, horns that curved in various directions, eyes that burned with their own distinct fires. But they were united in purpose. We have waited long enough, declared a dragon with scales like polished obsidian. The enemy grows complacent. They believe themselves safe in their stolen victory. Jackson felt his lips curve into the first genuine smile he'd worn in years. It was a warrior's smile, sharp and dangerous. Then let's remind them what they forgot. The golden dragon lowered its great head until it was level with Jackson's. Climb, Guardian. Let us show the invaders what happens when they awaken sleeping dragons. Jackson didn't hesitate. He grasped the dragon's offered horn and pulled himself up onto its neck, settling between the massive scales. The moment he made contact, the bond exploded into full awareness. He could see through the dragon's eyes, feel its strength as his own, sense the locations of every invader ship that still prowled Earth's wounded skies. They've made Earth their staging ground, Jackson said, the knowledge flowing through the bond. They're using it to launch attacks on other worlds. Not anymore, the dragon replied. With a sound like thunder, the golden dragon launched itself into the air. The others followed, their wings beating in perfect synchronization. Jackson had never experienced anything like it, the rush of wind, the sensation of soaring through the golden sky, the raw power of the ancient creatures beneath him. But more than that, he felt complete. For the first time in his life, he understood who he was meant to be. They emerged from the dragon realm through a rift in reality itself, bursting into Earth's ravaged atmosphere like avenging angels wreathed in fire. The alien ships, so confident in their dominance, were caught completely off guard. Jackson raised his hand, and the dragons responded as one. Streams of dragon fire lit up the sky, but this wasn't ordinary flame. This was the fire of creation and destruction combined, the power that had once helped shape worlds. The alien ships, for all their advanced technology, had no defense against it. One by one, the invader vessels fell from the sky like dying stars. "This is for everyone they took," Jackson whispered, and his words were carried on the wind to every corner of the battlefield. The few remaining alien ships tried to flee, but the dragons were faster. They had been waiting centuries for this moment, and they would not be denied their vengeance. As the last ship crashed into the ocean, Jackson and his dragon companion landed on the ruins of what had once been New York City. The golden dragon folded its wings, and Jackson slid down to stand on the broken ground of his homeworld. "It's not over," he said, looking up at the scarred sky. "There are more of them out there. Other worlds they've conquered." "Yes," the dragon agreed. "But now they face something they thought they had destroyed forever. They faced the Guardians reborn." Jackson looked at his hands. The fire still lived within him, warm and comforting. He was no longer the last human. He was the first of something new, something the enemy had tried so hard to prevent. He was the bridge between two ancient species, the key to reclaiming not just Earth, but every world the invaders had stolen. The war was far from over. But for the first time, Jackson knew they could win. Standing among the ruins of his old world, with dragons circling overhead and the ancient fire burning in his veins, Jackson smiled. The invaders had thought they were unleashing dragons on the last human. They were about to learn just how big a mistake that had been. The end.